It began, as all great battles do, not on the field of honor, but in the quiet, manufactured calm of a backstage green room. The event was a televised panel titled Women Defining the Moment, a gathering designed for curated discourse, not outright conflict. The guest list was a carefully assembled mosaic of power, influence, and celebrity, from celebrated CEOs to acclaimed artists and political trailblazers. No one, not the seasoned showrunners, the nervous production assistants, or the polished publicists, expected a fuse to be lit between the global icon Taylor Swift and the conservative firebrand Caroline Leavitt. Caroline was the first to arrive, a figure of quiet, almost intimidating focus. She moved with an unwavering purpose, her navy blue power blazer and sensible heels a stark contrast to the bohemian glamour of the space. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the room. She was here for substance, armed with talking points honed and sharpened for a public forum. Policies affecting young women, the intricacies of free speech, the fragile threads of national identity. Her demeanor was professional, her posture perfect, her calm a shield against the swirling chaos of a live television production. Taylor, in opposition, didn't walk into the room so much as she floated. She carried a casual ease that only comes from a life spent under 1,000 spotlights. A silk blouse, gold chains that caught the low light, and an aura that screamed she had nothing left to prove. Her security detail, men in discreet suits, melted into the background like specters. Her stylists hovered for a moment before she waved them off with a practiced, radiant smile. Yet beneath the glossy composure and effortless charm, there was a new political edge to Taylor. She had shed the skin of a purely musical sweetheart for that of an activist, and tonight she was not looking to make soft melodies. The showrunner's voice echoed through the green room, announcing a final 5-minute warning. Caroline, ever the professional, turned to Taylor and offered a polite, courteous nod, a gesture of respect between two people about to share a stage. But Taylor's smirk, a flash of a smile that didn't reach her eyes, said otherwise. "You're Caroline, right?" Taylor asked, her voice carrying just enough to catch the attention of the surrounding crew. "You're the one turning politics into a Miss America Q&A." The air went still, a sudden, suffocating silence. A cough from a corner was the only sound. A makeup artist froze, mid-wipe. Caroline didn't blink. Her expression remained impassive, her voice low and even, a blade she unsheathed with perfect control. "And you're still trying to sell courage in eyeliner commercials." Taylor's smile evaporated. Her jaw, just for a moment, clenched and twitched, a micro-expression so subtle it would have been missed by a naked eye, but not by the behind-the-scenes cameras already filming. The shot was viral gold waiting to happen. An awkward throat clearing from a PA broke the spell. Panel starts in 60 seconds. Both women turned toward the stage, their postures straight and stiff. The audience was about to cheer, the lights about to flare, but for these two, the battle had already started. The transition from the tense backstage silence to the roaring applause of the live audience was jarring. Cameras swept across the brightly lit stage as the 5 panelists took their seats, a tableau of diverse, powerful women. In the center, radiant and poised, was Taylor Swift, a figure of American songwriting sweetheart turned political activist. To her right, sharp-suited and stone-faced, sat Caroline Leavitt, a disruptor, rising fast through the conservative ranks. The visual contrast was as striking as the ideological chasm between them. One woman embodied the polished, accessible face of pop culture, the other, the unyielding, unvarnished spirit of a political insurgency. The battle that had begun in a whisper backstage was now poised to erupt under the glare of national television. The moderator, a seasoned journalist, kicked off the discussion with a classic, diplomatic softball. What does empowerment mean in 2025? Taylor leaned into her microphone, a practiced, charming smile gracing her lips. Her answer was delivered with an effortless grace that felt both heartfelt and perfectly rehearsed. "Empowerment is storytelling," she began, her voice warm and melodic. "It's when millions of women hear their experience in your lyrics and know they're not alone.
It's creating a community through shared vulnerability. The applause from the audience was immediate and effusive. Heads on the panel nodded in agreement. Twitter hashtags, the invisible signposts of her immense influence, were already blooming, a digital echo of her words. Then it was Caroline's turn. She didn't smile. She didn't nod along. Her stillness was a statement in itself. Empowerment, she said, her voice clear and cutting, is not just telling people how they feel. It's giving them the freedom to speak, to disagree, and to shape their future without being canceled, filtered, or sung over. Her last words hung in the air, a thinly veiled jab at the culture of celebrity-driven discourse. The applause this time was scattered, hesitant, and died down quickly. The room stirred, sensing that the polite veneer was cracking. Taylor, her chin subtly raised, turned slightly to face Caroline. "So, you're saying music can't be a force for good?" she asked, her voice tinged with a carefully controlled incredulity. Caroline's eyes remained fixed forward, not on Taylor, but on a point in the distance, as if addressing the entire cultural landscape. "I'm saying hashtags aren't policy. Billboard hits won't defend free speech." The room buzzed, a low murmur of anticipation. The audience, a collective organism, sensed blood in the water. That's when Taylor dropped the grenade, a line she had clearly held in reserve. Her voice, sweet as honey but sharp as a razor, cut through the tension. "Well, I guess we can't all win a debate and a beauty pageant." A few nervous laughs rippled from the front rows. It was a vicious, personal attack masked as a witty quip. But Caroline didn't flinch. She leaned in, her voice now cool as steel, a whisper that commanded attention. "And we can't all sell rebellion in a Target aisle. Some of us have to live it." A collective gasp echoed through the studio. Taylor's smile vanished completely, her eyes locking onto Caroline's. The moderator's eyes darted between them like a tennis match, a panicked scramble to regain control. The moment was locked in, an indelible part of the cultural zeitgeist. Clips were already being clipped, and the silent onstage war had just gone thermonuclear. By the time Caroline stepped off the stage, the internet was not just talking, it was boiling. The seconds-long exchange, the pageant queen jab and the Target aisle counter had already been clipped and was being endlessly replayed across every social media platform. On one side, hashtag Team Taylor stood its ground. Supporters branded Caroline a petty provocateur and a pageant politician, a soundbite machine and a power blazer. On the other side, conservatives and anti-establishment voices called Taylor a lipstick liberal and accused her of mistaking her immense influence for actual intellect. Entertainment Weekly, in a digital-first piece that went live before the panel even finished, called it a collision of image and ideology. Backstage, the air was no longer tense. It was thick with the frenetic energy of public relations posturing. Caroline's assistant, wide-eyed with a mix of awe and terror, whispered to her, "You trended in under 4 minutes. And not just in politics either." She held up a phone screen, a swirling vortex of mentions and hashtags. Caroline, however, didn't crack a smile. She was already mentally 1,000 miles away, on to the next play. Across the room, Taylor was a silent storm, surrounded by her PR team. Her posture, usually so effortless and casual, was now straighter, stiffer, less like an idol, and more like a general being briefed on a surprise attack. She was used to being adored. Not challenged, especially not by a 20-something politician who didn't sing, act, or wear sequins to speak. "She came for your feminism," one handler muttered, trying to frame the attack in a way that fit the brand. "No," Taylor said, her jaw clenched, her gaze fixed on something unseen. "She came for me." That night, Caroline flew back to D.C., and Taylor flew back to New York, but the story flew faster than either of them. Memes flooded feeds. Podcast hosts chose sides, and cable news ran the clip on a loop. Caroline was invited to 3 primetime interviews within hours. She accepted only one, on Fox, where she stared dead into the camera with unflinching resolve. "She took a swing at my looks. That's fine. I'm used to it. I care more about the strength of my arguments than the shade of my lipstick. But when celebrities think they can define womanhood through merch and music, that's when we speak." Meanwhile, Taylor fired back with the subtlety and sophistication of a master brand architect. Her response
was a carefully worded Instagram caption, part poem, part message, vague enough to protect her image, but sharp enough to be felt. It read, "They say beauty fades, but sometimes courage does too." The caption ended with a wink emoji, a final flourish of confidence. But Caroline, a stranger to theatrics, didn't flinch. She simply replied the next morning with 3 words on X. Words that would become the new battle cry for her supporters. Plastic isn't courage. And with that, the battle lines were redrawn. Not just between right and left, but between polish and power. Between the celebrity and the disruptor. What had started as a tense panel exchange had snowballed into a cultural wildfire, and neither woman was about to let it burn itself out. Back in the quiet, mahogany-paneled room of her D.C. townhouse, Caroline Leavitt sat with a small team of advisors. The digital wildfire was still raging, but she was already a step ahead, staring at a whiteboard that tracked media hits, polling data, and hashtags trending by region. "You lit a fire," her communications director said, his voice a mix of awe and concern. "Now what?" Caroline didn't hesitate. "I didn't light it. I just refused to smile while it burned." Her gaze landed on a single item on the board, a college campus tour, a low-stakes event she'd scheduled weeks ago. "Let's add a new stop," she announced, the words hanging in the air with the weight of a decree. "Nashville." The room went silent. Her press aide swallowed hard. "You want to go to her turf?" Caroline's nod was firm. "I want to remind people that fame doesn't mean immunity, and influence isn't a free pass to define truth." The message was clear. This wasn't a skirmish, it was a campaign. Caroline Leavitt touched down in Nashville without fanfare. No celebrity entourage, no phalanx of handlers trailing behind her with headsets. Just a carry-on, a firm stride, and the kind of sharp confidence that didn't need sequence to shine. She was walking straight into the lion's den, and she knew it. Outside the venue, a college gymnasium, protesters had already gathered. Handmade signs waved in the humid air. "Keep politics out of pop. Swiftie, stand united. You're not welcome here." The chants were loud, a performative outrage designed for headlines. Inside, the crowd was a tense mixture of young conservatives and curious, skeptical liberal students. This wasn't a rally, it was a showdown. As the host introduced her, Caroline heard both the applause and the boos, and a smile, not of arrogance, but of grim recognition, crept across her face. This, she knew, was what modern battlefields looked like. Microphones instead of swords, hashtags instead of bullets. Stepping up to the podium, she began her speech with a calm, cutting voice. "Some people sell empowerment through breakup ballads and moonlight metaphors, but where I come from, empowerment means being able to speak your mind without needing a stage light or a costume change." The scattered applause was hesitant, but the audience was hooked. "I came to Nashville not to pick a fight, but to finish one. I was called a pageant queen, a parody. But here's the thing. When someone mocks your appearance, it's not confidence, it's a mask. When someone uses fame to silence dissent, that's not strength, that's fear." The room erupted in cheers, loud and defiant. A flash from the back of the room, a camera crew, Taylor Swift's people, maybe not. It didn't matter. The gauntlet had been thrown. Meanwhile, 1,000 miles away in a private suite in Tribeca, Taylor was a study of calm. Her inner circle buzzed around her, phones ringing, emails pinging. "You don't have to respond," her publicist urged. "The optics will fade. She's playing to outrage." Taylor stared out the window, composed but far from passive. "She came to my city, she dragged my name, and now people are questioning me." Her producer, a man with a genius for timing, leaned forward. "Then let's speak through something bigger than a soundbite." Taylor turned, a slow smile creeping across her face. "Go on." The producer paused for dramatic effect. The Grammys. One speech, one mic, millions watching. This wasn't about a panel anymore. This wasn't about a caption. This was personal. The final showdown had just been scheduled. The night of the Grammys arrived with more tension than celebration. The red carpet was a blizzard of flashbulbs and designer gowns, a spectacle of carefully managed fame. But behind every smile and every twirl of satin, there was an elephant in the room. The moment everyone was waiting for. Taylor Swift had not confirmed she would speak, but she didn't need to. She arrived late on purpose, a power move. dressed in a midnight blue that seemed to absorb all light. When a red carpet reporter, emboldened by the moment, asked her about the ongoing public feud, she didn't flinch. "I think people confuse volume with value," she said, her smile never breaking. "Sometimes a whisper moves more mountains than a scream." Inside, the air was thick with a hushed anticipation. Caroline, by choice, was not there. She had no desire to sit in a Hollywood echo chamber. Instead, she streamed the event from her townhouse in D.C., surrounded by aides and a documentary crew, just in case history decided to happen. She watched impassively as Taylor took the stage to accept the Album of the Year award, the roar of the crowd momentarily drowning out the sound of the live stream. Taylor looked directly into the camera, a master of her craft, with no cue cards or teleprompter in sight. There's been a lot of noise lately. A lot of people talking about power, about image, about who gets to be a voice. The room held its breath. I've spent my whole career being underestimated, categorized, mocked, not just for what I write, but for how I look, how I dress, how I smile. I've been called emotional, dramatic, too sensitive, too much. A wave of applause and murmurs of agreement swept through the audience. And it's fine, because I've learned something. What they fear most isn't the dress. It's the direction. She paused for maximum effect. So to the women who've been told they're just pageant queens or songbirds, I say, keep singing, keep rising. And if they call you plastic, remind them plastic doesn't break. It bends, it adapts, and it outlasts. The crowd rose in a deafening, unified, standing ovation. Back in D.C., Caroline didn't blink. She reached out and shut the laptop with a definitive click. She just proved my point. That speech wasn't for empowerment, it was damage control, wrapped in glitter. She walked to the window, staring out at the city lights. She doesn't bend, she pivots away from substance every time. And outside, the internet caught fire again, split down a generational fault line. The story's final scene took place not in the bright lights of Hollywood, but in a small New Hampshire gymnasium, packed to the last row. No cameras were allowed by Caroline's request. No glamour, no editing, just wood floors, echoing voices, and a crowd that came to hear one last thing: truth. Caroline Leavitt stepped to the front, holding a mic in one hand and nothing in the other. She said, "People have asked me why I care so much about what a pop star says. I don't. I care that we've built a culture that gives more weight to an acceptance speech than to a vote. I care that we've decided applause is more powerful than accountability." There was a silence, a profound and good silence. I never set out to fight a celebrity, but I won't apologize for refusing to bow to one. Fame doesn't give you wisdom. Stage lights don't make your words sacred, and just because someone sings loud doesn't mean they speak for you. Only you do. Outside, word of the speech spread fast. Quotes went viral. TikToks of the speech racked up millions of views. Back in Los Angeles, Taylor watched quietly. She didn't post, she didn't comment. She was prepping for her next tour, but quietly considering what to say next, if anything. Because whether she liked it or not, Caroline wasn't a footnote anymore. She was a mirror reflecting back a version of America that didn't clap on cue. And for millions watching, that was the real headline. Thank you for following along with this story. The tension has been building, and now it's time for the final act. If you've enjoyed this saga of celebrity and politics colliding, don't forget to like this video, share it with a friend, and let us know in the comments below, whose side are you on? And now for the final chapter. And so we reach the end of this incredible cultural saga. 2 women, 2 worlds, and one powerful question about where true influence lies. If you enjoyed this story, please like and share it with your friends. And for more content that explores the fascinating intersections of media, politics, and culture, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Let us know in the comments, what do you think will happen next in the culture wars?